What's up, everybody? ODC here, and I'm back with another action figure review. Today's review, we're going to take a look at the Star Wars Black Series Darth Malgus action figure. This was a figure that, I want to say since maybe the first year into the Black Series that I was pretty much clamoring for. This is a character that is one of my absolute favorite Star Wars characters. I want to say Luke Skywalker, and then it's probably Malgus after that. And then, there's plenty of others that I have as favorites as well, but this one was a big deal for me. I'm going to try my best to keep this as objective as possible. Originally retailed at $35, and a lot of people, I think, I only heard some spatterings of complaints about the price, but when you actually get this figure in hand, you can see how actually massive and imposing he is. This is an actual larger action figure than you think. But like I said, I'm going to try and keep this as objective as possible. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get to the figure here. The figure stands very tall. And just to give you guys kind of a depth comparison, or a size comparison, I should say, is the proper term. I'm kind of having issues with him staying in frame here a little bit, but not too bad. So here is, let's grab a Marvel Legend. I'm going to get comparisons out of the way so you can actually kind of understand how large he is. Here is Vulcan. And that's a Marvel Legend. Now, Marvel Legends always run much larger. Let me fix his ankle because he's leaning forward just a little bit. So, as far as the first comparison is going to go, here is Vulcan from the Marvel Legends line. And then next, and both of these figures that I'm going to bring in here are larger than most of the Black Series. Black Series runs a little bit smaller. It's more of a true kind of 6-inch, where Marvel Legends like 6 1/4 ish. Same thing with classifieds. They run a little bit bulkier, a little bit taller. They're more of like a 6 1/4, 6 1/2 inch kind of toy line, but he is dwarfing both of them. He is very large. So if that helps with some sort of comparison, I'll also bring in let me grab somebody. Here's here is King Conan from Super 7. Now, you guys know pretty much the deal with how large Super 7 figures are. And let me get him on this side. He's got his big spear in the way there. But side by side, he is actually, I want to say, let's get the head straight. He's a little bit taller than King Conan. And that's essentially a Motu Classics style body. So if that gives you another frame of reference, hopefully that does. I'm sure it will. It will speak for itself. And then we can bring in a fellow Black Series figure. And this is, I think, maybe besides Snoke, the tallest of the Black Series. And Chewbacca is just a little bit taller. So I think this is pretty accurate for Malgus. Malgus is a very large, imposing, juggernaut style kind of character. And I want to say if Chewbacca is 8 feet tall, then Malgus is probably around 7 feet at this point. So that would make sense, I think. Here is also a NECA figure. Let me scoot him over a little bit. Here is the Armored Last Ronin, and he's larger than the Last Ronin figure. So he is a far larger figure. I love this Last Ronin figure, by the way. He's great. Awesome details. So if that gives you guys a real frame of reference, also with another fellow Black Series, here is a Snow Speeder Luke that I'm actually going to use for a custom, I think. But you can see how much larger he is than Luke Skywalker. It's crazy. So there you go as far as the references go and size comparisons and all that fun jazz. I want to say, like I said, this is probably my most anticipated Black Series figure. ever. Maybe besides Jedi Luke Skywalker, which that one came out earlier in the line, and then multiple re-releases after that. The newer version that we have of Luke is fantastic. But back to the figure at hand here. This is probably my most anticipated. I've been asking for a Malgus for so long and hoping that we would maybe one day get one just before the line ended. Maybe. Or if, who knows how long the line's going to go. But I pretty much last year and this year got two characters I never thought I was going to get. One from the Classifieds line in Shadow Tracker, and then last year from the Black Series with Malgus. So this is a wonderful addition, and I'm going to try and stay as objective, not subjective, but objective as I can with this review. But this is, I think, objectively, possibly the best Black Series figure ever made. And that's not with my bias for the character or wanting a 6-inch rendition. But the figure itself, really cool. He doesn't come with much. He comes with a removable mask, a cloth goods cape, which you can see here, cloak, and then he also comes with his lightsaber with a removable blade. Now, everything on him, head to toe, even the lightsaber blade, is all new. Everything is new on him. Now, originally, like I said, $35 price, that's kind of a tough sell for most people. It's going to be tough to kind of warrant a price like that for a just Black Series figure that essentially just comes with the bare essentials according to what most people would consider a Black Series figure. But there's a but. He is far larger, as you saw. That's why I wanted to do the size comparisons first to kind of prove my point. He is far larger. He is got pretty good articulation, very good, I think, range of motion for how large of a figure this actually is. And I'll kind of chalk that up into the articulation section, which we will get out of the way right now. So, as far as his articulation does go, I'm going to bring the hood down, which you can, and there is the head revealing. So, really good. But articulation, his head can swivel at a full 360 rotation if you needed to. His head can look up, and you can get it to look up if you kind of work with the hood. So he can look up and hold the pose, and then he can look down. And if you need to utilize that ab crunch a little bit, well, a diaphragm joint, I should say, you can, and have him looking down because he's very tall. Let's see if we got some jive turkeys. Oh, yeah, we got some gobbles up in here. So there you go with the jive turkeys. I'll bring his hood back up. We'll talk about the details in a little bit. The arms can do a full 360 rotation, and that's with this separate piece that is actually attached to the body, but can also swivel with the arm. And the only reason I'm really doing full 360 here, which you don't necessarily need to do, is because this armor moves with the arm, which is great. So you can really get some good looks with him. He does have a butterfly joint as well, which is, I want to say, more fluid than even Jedi Luke and most Luke Skywalker figures. He has a single bend at the elbow, which is more than 90 degrees. Very well done there. He has a swivel at that elbow. He also has a swivel at both wrists. He has a lateral hinge joint here and a vertical hinge joint on the other side. He has a diaphragm joint, which can twist, and it can pivot, and it can crunch a little bit forward and a little bit back. Now, this part is probably the most hindered on the body besides maybe the thighs, which we'll get to in a second. But I still think having the utilization of the waist twist down here, a separate piece, helps him pivot more and more so. So I think it's really well done what they did with the articulation with him. The legs can go forward. They can go back just a little bit, but there's a lot of armor pieces here on the sculpting of his rear end. He does not have a thigh cut. Now, maybe this would be a point of contention for most people, but he does have a natural, atomically correct thigh swivel. Now, what I mean by that is you're probably like, what? He actually can swivel his thigh pretty much how most humans can swivel their thighs. Now, if you swivel your thighs, this is essentially the limited range of motion that you're going to get. We're starting to see this more and more. I think it kind of started maybe with him, and now they're kind of chalking it up to a lot of the new media figures I've noticed. I still do prefer, if I have to choose, I still do prefer a natural thigh swivel like Luke's got here, right? Where you can swivel the knee and then you can swivel the thigh. Maybe the designers think that maybe this is redundant because we have a swivel here and you can still work with the thigh up here. Maybe that's what they're thinking. I don't know. It's pure speculation at this point. But I don't really mind this as long as you can get some sort of range of motion. It's still better than what really most McFarlane figures can do, so I'm okay with it. Single jointed knee here. You have a swivel at that knee that we're used to. We do have a pointy toe, pointy heel, ankle pivot, 2 peg holes, and a partridge in a pear tree as far as that goes. Now, that's pretty much articulation, range of motion. I think it's pretty damn good for a large figure. Now, most large figures are hard to articulate. They don't really act well while trying to articulate them. There are, a few in the past, like Marvel Select, Juggernaut, Colossus, but those are Marvel Selects. Even some of the Hulks, you can articulate very well with having very limited articulation. But with his articulation and range of motion, the way it's set up, I think he's very fluid. I mean, you can really get him into good posturing poses. Let's get him into the Shawn Michaels pose and see if he can hold it. And I think he'll be able to do that. So there's no issue there. It's very easy to get him to do that. Oh, and he can also, sorry if I didn't add this, do the splits better than most Spider-Man figures. Now, also, what you have to understand is a lot of people seem to make comparisons between Malgus because of maybe similar thought processes in character design between him and Vader. I get it. He is a Sith Lord. He is big, imposing. He is bigger than Vader. Malgus is larger than Vader is. And just to kind of prove my point, here is the best rendition of Darth Vader, which is the Empire Strikes Back version of Darth Vader. And as you can see, he is far larger than Anakin. So try to have an understanding of that. And Vader is a large figure on his own. Like we'll grab us a Luke here. I'll just use the same Luke I just used. So there you go as far as comparisons go. So I think it's pretty darn good as far as what Hasbro did here with sizes. As far as comparisons between the two characters, they are completely different characters. Their designs, while I don't know, maybe thematically are similar, I don't think they're remotely close to each other. The armors don't look alike. The character itself is a complete direct opposite of what Darth Vader is. Yes, Darth Vader, mass murdered a lot of characters and stuff like that. But so did Malgus. So maybe that's the only comparison you could make, is that they're Sith Lords and they've murdered a lot of people. But character-wise, complete different. Malgus, complete the opposite of Vader. He wants to embrace the dark as much as possible. He wants to take over. He wants to be in control of the galaxy. And while Vader says those same sentiments, no. He wants to be in control of the galaxy with the ones that he loves. He has no attachments. And the only attachment he did have, which was a girlfriend, he murdered because he saw that as weakness. To love someone would be to have or show weakness, and he didn't want to do that. So he killed her. While he didn't want to, he still did it. Anakin would have never done that to Padme. He loved her too much. So like I said, for the people that are saying making or that do make comparisons between the two, you got to do your homework. You got to understand the characters first. Just by design, they remotely look a little bit similar, but you know, also the other thing is, Malgus doesn't have any really cybernetics. He has a rebreather, and that's essentially it. The rest of him is not cybernetic whatsoever. He has a battle suit on, where Vader is, 60% organic, and the other 40% is, cybernetics. So I don't know. I don't think there's a true comparison to make there. So there's that. Anyway, moving on, because I'm just babbling about the character because I understand the character and I love him. And yeah, the lightsaber blade looks really good. I think they did a really good job on the hilt. I was always kind of intrigued, and I would like to actually one day get a replica of Malgus's saber with the, essentially the blades right here. So if he does depower his lightsaber, he could stab you with it. He could impale you with it. It's like having a Rambo knife, for God's sake, on your hilt on both sides. Insane. It at times looks a little bit plasticky, but it's not too bad. There's some black paint on the blade portions, and then there's a black line work for the grip, which I think looks pretty good. The pommel is, lacking a little bit paint, but not too bad. So, that's pretty much his accessories. You can remove the lightsaber blade if you want to, and you can have him depowered if you want. You cannot put the hilt anywhere on his belt. There is no spot to put the hilt unless there's something I don't know, but I've looked and looked and looked, and there's nowhere to really put it. I have had this guy for quite a while. I want to say essentially when he came out, I picked him up. So I have had this guy kind of put off the review for a little bit, but here I am regardless. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can get a really good, and I'm going to do a wider stance because when I'm zooming in, it gets a little bit tight. Really well done. Very good job with the head sculpt. He does, like I said, the mask is removable, so you do have to pop the head off. As far as design goes for the head, let me get some light, a little bit more light back in here. The head sculpt itself is really cool the way it's set up with the mask. I think this is far better engineered than Malik's mask, because Malik's mask kind of wants to fall apart constantly, which that kind of bothers me somewhat. But the mask sits very well on him. I'm even going to give it a shake test to see if it's going to fall off. It's not falling off. Why is that? Well, because there's a tab right on the back, and you can see these kind of like a cybernetic implant or something like that on the back of his head sculpted in. Well, that piece actually sits flush into the back of the mask, where this is movable still. The back holds it in on a tab. Like, just wonderfully thought out. How are we going to get the mask to stay on? Oh, I know. We'll put a tab on there, little notch, and have it secured. And there's your notch right there. Very well done. Very well thought out. Here is the head sculpt without the mask on. You can see the scorching on the left side of his cheek and towards his mouth. And you can kind of see the crow's feet, if you want to call them that, or whatever they're called, the dark eyes. And then he actually has Sith eyes. And they are wonderfully painted, because if you really can see that, they actually are like glistening a little bit. It's just so cool how they did this. And it looks so darn crisp. It looks so good. And how did he get this scar? Well, he kind of took a grenade to the face. He took a thermal imploder to the face, or a thermal detonator, to the face. And then he was essentially force pushed into a mountain, and then force pushed again, and the mountain exploded. And he survived that, by the way. And the worst thing that happened to him was that he had to get a little breather. So the guy's a monster. The guy's an absolute, like, if I don't know, man, like, as far as imposing and scary people chasing you down like Jason Voorhees. Between him and Vader are two guys I don't want chasing me down. I certainly don't want to mess with them. But if I had to choose one, I don't know. I'd rather have Vader chasing me, I guess, than Malgus, because I just feel like, you know, you have maybe a slight 1% chance of surviving a Vader attack if you're a normie, as opposed to Malgus, which is far more athletic and agile than Vader is. I don't know. It's just he's a scary dude, Malgus, and he does not care whatsoever. No remorse with this guy. Yikes. So anyway, I love the hood. I think this is one of the best soft goods hoods as far as fitment goes. It's a very well done fitment. The cloth goods on the back, it's not really see-through, so that's good. I think it's a pretty good material, as you can see here. But the fitment is perfect, and that's because it's kind of sutured into the chest piece right here. So very well done with that. And we even have some paint details, some red dots for the rebreather, as you can see right there. And then on top of that, we have all this paint detail, all new body, all new sculpt, and it's only really being used on Malgus, which is insane. Because look at all the detail. Look at all the line work just in this shoulder pauldron right here. Like, it's so well done. And then all of the padding for the armor all throughout. We've got some silver paint for his belt. Some little bit of paint right here. I would say that this is probably the sloppiest portion on him, which is the gauntlet white paint. It's much worse on this side. As you can see, it's bleeding over a little bit. I can go through and touch that up, but it is there. There's some red and black dots right here on there, if you can see that. And then also on the back, which we don't see usually on most characters because they're always faced towards us, not away from us. And on top of that, the cape is covering it. So there's that as well. But we have silver paint up top. We have silver paint in between. And then we even have silver paint on the back of the belt. Now, if you know Hasbro like I do, for as long as you do, as long as I have, for decades, you know that sometimes they kind of call it in, they phone it in. Even with the newest Acolyte figure of Indara, they didn't paint the back part of Indara. They just painted the front, which is very odd. But they do that sometimes. They didn't do that here. This is I want to say this almost doesn't even feel like a Hasbro product, because it's so damn well done. It's so good. Like, the intricate sculpting on just the gauntlets and even the knuckle dusters, and it's just insane to me how much detail they actually got. The lines through the suit with all the padding of the black paint, and the black paint is spot on. The silver paint is spot on. And then we get to the boot armor, or the boots, whatever you want to call it. He's got like shin armor here and then like an actual boot underneath. It is a different color from the black, as you can see here. Like, there's the true black, and then you over here, you almost have like a chocolate color, which is great. It breaks up the monotonous black everywhere with the grays and the silvers. So very well done. And then on the chest, we've got some red dots right here. So I think this is really good. This is gotta be one of the absolute best, if not, I think personally, the best Black Series figure ever created. He can hold the lightsaber. Like I said, he can two-hand it. He can single-hand it. Whatever you want to do with him, it sits firmly in his hand, doesn't jiggle around. So you don't have an issue, or you shouldn't have an issue there with any of that. But there you go with Malgus. Let me back out just a little bit. And yeah, I guess we'll bring it down to a final verdict here. And I gotta say, man, like, I think this checks all the boxes. I think this is such a good figure. I think you guys will really enjoy it. I know this is a much longer review. I'm trying to shorten a lot of my reviews, but I gotta go ahead and I gotta give this an absolute 2 thumbs up, way up. I think go pick him up. I know he is starting to garnish a higher price, but, and I think I've even seen him on Amazon for like $63. I don't think he's worth $63 whatsoever, but However, I do think the $35 price is not that bad. I really don't. And I normally would be like, no, that's too much. I think the amount of the paint detail, everything's spot on. There's no quality control concerns whatsoever. Maybe you could make an argument for a thigh swivel not being there, a true thigh swivel as far as action figures go. But the cloth goods cape, I think, is very well done. Maybe if I could nitpick, I would have preferred maybe a little bit more of a billowing cape. It is a skinnier cape towards the back end. But that's, I guess, a nitpick, a personal gripe that I have. And I can always get a custom cloak if I want to down the road, but I think this will suffice for now. Other than that, he does have a very long lightsaber blade, but Malgus himself always had a longer lightsaber blade. So, yet again, you think something's inaccurate, but it actually is accurate. There's even statues that I own of Malgus that has a very long lightsaber blade. So, I think it's pretty accurate. I think this is a very well done figure, and you can get him into some really good, awesome, fun, cool poses, even with the doggone hood on. And like I said, Malgus is far more agile than people want to give him credit for. I mean, go watch some of the Old Republic trailers and you see how he duels. He is faster than you think. He is strong as all hell. And he is super OP, telling you. He is a scary, scary gentleman, if I may say so. But a very fun action figure, regardless, even if you don't know that much about Malgus, I think he is one to get. And if you don't get him, don't beat yourself up too much if you didn't get him, because Hasbro does have a tendency to re-release figures on the regular. So, like I said, be patient, wait for the right price. And they released Revan, and he was kind of going up there in the 50s to 60s, even 70s at one point. And then they re-released him in the archive line. I wouldn't be surprised if that gets the same treatment here with Malgus. So, yeah, definitely go pick him up. He is a fun dude to have in your collection. And that's pretty much it for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I do have memberships going. I have started them about, I want to say, a couple weeks ago. So if you guys want to become a member, become a Jive Turkey, you can. I'm going to try actually, I do have nice perks up, so be sure to check out the perks and everything. I have custom emojis and custom badges, so if you guys like stuff like that, you can join down below in the description box. I don't have a join button yet, but I'm sure I'll get there with the minimum membership rate. I think you have to have at least 8. But I do want to thank Terry Turner, and I do want to thank Woodman29 for becoming my first 2 channel members. Much appreciated to you fellas. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you like the content and want to see more, please do hit subscribe. It's right there down below. And also hit the bell for notifications so you can be notified as soon as a review does come out. And also, be sure to hit the like or dislike button. Either one works. Let me know how you guys feel about this. Do you own Malgus? Did you not get him? Are you passing on him? Or you just don't care? But let me know in the comments below. And I don't just ask that for the sake of doing it every video, but I actually want to have some discourse and discuss the actual figure that I'm reviewing. So, but let me know what you guys think. That's it for me, and I'll see you guys on the flip side.